In order to look at the accessibility features on your Mac, what you're going to do is you're going to go down to the bottom and you're going to click on System Preferences. Once it opens up, you're going to come down here to the bottom and you're going to look at this blue icon that says Accessibility, and you're going to click on that. Now you're going to be given a lot of options. We're going to first look at display. So the overall function of display is to create accommodations for the way things are going to display on your screen. For the most part, this is just going to help you to make the display easier on your eyesight. So for example, we can go through all the different features. The first one is going to be invert colors. As you can see, it totally changes the colors. You can use the gray scale, which is going to take all the colors out. You can use differentiate without color, which doesn't look like it does much, but it's actually going to give more emphasis to different shapes rather than colors. You can increase the contrast. You can reduce the transparency. You can change the contrast, change the cursor size, and shake the mouse pointer to locate. Now that we have successfully learned how to do the display option, we're going to learn how to do our zoom options. So first we're going to be able to look at the feature to use the keyboard shortcuts to zoom. Basically what that means is we're just going to be able to press these keys on the keyboard and we'll be able to basically create shortcuts for ourselves. So for example, if we wanted to do the zoom in option, we would hit Option Command 8 and be able to zoom in and zoom out. Now if we wanted to be able to kind of create that zoom picture that we just saw, but be able to use kind of our scroll option to increase or decrease the zoom option, we have a choice of which key would you like to use. I'm going to choose to use the Command key, and so we'll go back into the zoom function. And now I can actually just hold the Command key and I can use that scroll option to kind of go in and out. If we want to have a little bit of a better image though, what we're going to do is we're going to press the smooth zoom image, the smooth images. So we'll go back to our zoom option and I'm going to hold that command down. And you can see it's a little bit nicer, a little bit easier on the eyes when we use the smooth images. We can also use zoom to follow the keyboard focus, which is just basically keeping a focus on what we just looked at. And then we can also use the type of screens we want to look at. Right now I am in a full screen option because we can pretty much see everything. But if we wanted to do a picture in a picture, so basically be able to see, as we saw before, another zoom option for the original screen that we're looking at, we can choose picture in picture. We'll go to more options and we can then increase the magnification, and you can see we'll be able to basically have a little magnifying glass on everything that we are looking at. Now the next one's going to be very simple. We're just going to be going into the voiceover, and basically what this option is going to do for you is it's going to create the ability for you to highlight, kind of similar to a Braille reading. You're going to be able to highlight the text on your screen and it's going to say it back to you. So let's check it out.
Welcome to VoiceOver. VoiceOver speaks descriptions of items on the screen and can be used to control the computer using only your keyboard.
All right.
If you already know how to use VoiceOver, press the V key now. If you want to learn how to use VoiceOver, press the space bar now.
Okay, so let's go ahead and click Use VoiceOver.
VoiceOver on System Preferences, Accessibility window, Accessibility Features table.
So
VoiceOver image. Selected has keyboard focus.
Let's go ahead.
System Accessibility Features Screencast, Special Education Students Only. Google Chrome window, System Accessibility Features Screencast.
Let's just go ahead and highlight this section right here.
Period. Selected. You are currently on a text element. Understand. Selected.
Right, so you can see it gets a little bit intense, but essentially you'll get the point across that it's going to read everything to you that you've highlighted on your screen. The next few items that we're going to be going over are descriptions, captions, and audio. So here in descriptions, it's pretty easy. We only have one feature, and it's going to be to play audio descriptions when available. Basically, the only time that's going to apply is when you have to do some sort of video or media content, and what it's going to do is it's going to play or essentially read out loud the descriptions that are provided right there for you. Once we move down here to captions, it's pretty simple. When you have your different subtitles that you want to use, you can choose what you want your subtitles to look like. Now you can also use the preferred closed captions of, or and, SDH, and you can see that it just says right here, when available, subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing or closed captions will be used instead of standard subtitles. Now lastly, we're going to look at this audio function right here, and basically what that's going to do is it's just going to control the way that we're going to be listening to the sounds that are coming out. So for example, you can choose to flash the screen when an alert sound occurs. So you can test it right here. You can see how it's kind of different. And then we can also use the option to play the stereo audio as mono. So when you do that, if you're watching a video on YouTube, for example, all it's going to do is slow it down a little bit and almost kind of mildly take the emotion out of the voice. So it just kind of follows just a slow, simple voice, just like the one I'm projecting right now. The next two options we're going to be looking at are the keyboard and the mouse and the trackpad. So let's go to keyboard first. So the first option that you're going to be able to have is to enable sticky keys. Now before I press any of these, let's review really quick that these two options interacting, so keyboard and mouse and trackpad, these are wonderful for people who may have disabilities with fine motor skills, for example. So they might have a lot of trouble with the speed and the use of their fingers or anything similar to that. So the first one that we're going to look at is to enable sticky keys. And what that's going to do right here, we're going to be able to see in this right corner, if we need to press two buttons at the same time, for example, the zoom function we were looking at earlier, you can press one button and then the second button and it'll register both of them. So then if we were to enable slow keys, for example, basically what that's going to do is it's going to make it easier for somebody who maybe can't click on the keyboard as fast as maybe the normal speed that you would expect, and they'll be able to click on it according to the speed that they can do so, and it'll kind of create a delay, and so the computer will accept that delay. So let's just say short really quick, and let's look at an example. Let's get rid of this guy. So if we were to there we go. So you can see that after I clicked it, we were able to get the F function. So, and I went to go press delete and I couldn't do it quickly. I had to hold it down for a little bit in order for it to work. Now if we move on to the mouse and the trackpad, basically what that's going to do, if we click the enable mouse keys, we can't really do this on a laptop because what it wants us to actually be pressing are the different number keys if you were going to be using a desktop, for example. But basically it just gives you the option that instead of using your trackpad or your mouse to kind of decide if you're going to go up, down, left, right, you would be able to use your mouse keys or your numbers instead to do that. And then the spring loading delay is essentially just the option where if you want to take a file, for example, so let's look at videos and let's do Zoom 4. So basically if you just drag a video and you hold it over a folder, after a little bit of a delay it is going to open that folder, as you can see right there. You can drag and drop. Okay, so the last thing that we are going to talk about is the switch control accessibility feature and the dictation feature. So on the switch control feature, there's really only one feature you can primarily work with, and this is going to be the feature that basically allows you to navigate or to control your feature from other devices. So for example, you could be able to do it from your phone if you want to do it. If someone is wheelchair bound and they have some sort of a control button on their wheelchair, they can use that and connect it to the computer, and that would be able to kind of control maybe the keys that you press or the mouse feature or anything similar to that. So when you press it, you're going to end up getting a home panel that may or may not show up. Yep, there it is right there. And so you can basically kind of customize what you want to do with the system you're going to use, the keyboard you're going to use. So once you choose that, you can kind of switch it up and kind of customize what you want to do with it. By the switch that you would use, you'd obviously put it in right here in this general area. You could also do the navigation, which is just basically, you know, what is your mouse going to look like? Or when you do set up the switch that you're going to be using, it's going to essentially create lines that are going to kind of come together, and that will kind of act as your cursor. And so that's what all these buttons are going to be used for. And then the timing, of course, you know, what kind of delay would you like to use? And then the hide panel after an activity is essentially just that same home panel that we see right here. And if you're not doing anything with it, then how long would you like it to go? Now, the last one that we're going to be using is the dictation feature, which is just basically the feature that allows you to either talk into your computer so that it will write or type what you have said, or in the reverse sense, you can kind of highlight a text and it will read it back to you. So go into the open and dictation feature. Now, right here, this is where it's going to be listening to you, and you can use this on button right here, and that will give it the go to start typing what you are saying. But in order to do that, you have to click what shortcut you're going to be using. So right here I put enter the command key twice, but you can change it to whichever one that you would prefer to do, and then of course the language that you want it to do in. So let's go ahead and look at one of my old papers and let's try it. So we'll hit the command key twice. This is a fun assignment. You see, press done and see how it just does that right for you. Now, the last one that we want to be looking at is the text-to-speech option, and that is essentially where you can highlight a text and you can have the computer read it back to you. So you can choose what voice you want to use, you can choose what speed you want to use. For example,
most people recognize me by my voice.
See, right there it tells you just about how fast it goes. You can have the computer do similar things to what it did with the voice options earlier, the sound options earlier, kind of make announcements when alerts are displayed. But for this one, you also have to select a shortcut so that it knows when you want it to talk to you or when you want it to read certain text back to you. So with this one, our options, or excuse me, our keys are just going to be Option and the Escape key. So let's go ahead and try that. So you go ahead and highlight the text that you want, press Option, Escape.
Switch control highlights.
You can see it reads it right back to you. And then, of course, you can just do different date and time preferences as well as different voiceover settings here. But other than that, that is all of the accessibility features. I hope this helps, and yeah, hope that you're able to do everything you need to.